So, next up, we have Jon Khoo. He is a co-innovation partner at Interface. Many of you know him. Many of you will have seen, like TED Talks, things like that. He's a great speaker. He's very, very passionate about this issue and innovation generally. He is also a trustee for SAS. So he's in front of a home crowd today. So welcome Jon to the stage, please.
Thanks, Lucy. When your favourite charity and your favourite clothes brand ask and invite you to come to speak, you're never going to say no. I was just reflecting, actually. I mean, Surfers Against Sewage, I remember speaking at the Global Wave Conference three years ago. And we look at all the things that have changed since in relation to marine plastics. It's been huge. But part of that, when I look around this room and when I look at any crowd, is through the conversations that people have had, the collaborations that it's led to. And I'm going to talk about some unusual collaborations. Most of you know me because I work for Interface, the carpet tile company that's made this carpet. I'm actually here representing 8 brands, which is terrifying for all PR companies. But nonetheless, I'm here to represent Next Wave, which Interface is a member. A little bit of a background on Interface is we're a flooring manufacturer. The benefit of me representing 8 brands is I'm not going to talk for 15 minutes on carpet and flooring. You will still be awake at the end of this. But we make carpet tiles and we also make luxury vinyl tiles. We're a sustainable company. We have been since the 90s. And that's thanks to our founder, Ray Anderson, who he used to pose this question: what is the business case for ending life on Earth? There really isn't one. And since the 90s, we've been working to be as sustainable as we can with a goal by 2020 to have no negative impact. And because we like big goals, looking beyond 2020, we were looking to run our company in a way that reverses global warming. And when it comes to waste, we really start with the question, back in the 90s, we were asking, our customers were asking us, what are you doing about the environment? The customer voice is a very, very strong voice, and it's one that any business will listen to. So remember, all of you own that powerful voice. In a post-Blue Planet 2 world, the question that we're now hearing is, what are you doing about the ocean? It's a terrifying stat how little is recycled. And only 9% of the world's plastic is currently recycled. One of the most quoted stats I ever hear, 8 million tonnes of plastic is going into our oceans every year. And that's something that we have to deal with as individuals, and it's something we have to deal with as a business too. But there is hope. So for Interface, our belief is, let's start with waste. Let's make something beautiful, and then let's take it back at the end of life. But as a company, our influence is only to the people that we sell to, the people that we talk to. Instead of just looking at our supply chain, what if we started to look at a supply web? That you could take this net, which is nylon 6, and it could have a number of different destinations. And that's not something we would do alone as a company. That's one thing we needed to look beyond our sphere of influence. Let's find multiple destinations for waste. And in terms of business, what Next Wave is a group of companies that are willing to stand shoulder to shoulder and create that supply web, create multiple destinations for different kinds of waste. It brings the world of computers with Dell, to cars with General Motors, furniture with Human Scale and Herman Miller, a plucky skateboard brand called Boreo, who I shall speak of a bit later, and Trek bicycles. The world of ocean plastic is full of unusual collaborations. I mean, when I talk about ours in a moment, I'm going to talk to you about the world of carpet, clashing and learning from conservation. I'm going to play a little video just to introduce Next Wave, and then I'll give a couple of examples.
The ocean is a very big place. There's over 8 million tons of plastic a year going into the ocean.
The UN and others have estimated that by the year 2050, we will have more plastic in the ocean than fish by volume.
The ocean is a barometer of the health of our planet and the health of our people. So if we can actually turn off the tap and reduce the amount of plastic waste going into the ocean, that can actually be a tipping point.
We really need to come together, think about the solutions, take responsibility as producers over what we make.
Dell has been working for the past 2 years to prove out internally that they were able to collect, process, and then integrate an ocean-bound plastic into their packaging.
We are trying to develop the first ever scalable supply chain in the industry for ocean plastics.
They're just one company, they can't do it alone, and to really scale this solution, they needed a consortium of companies to come together to also integrate this waste product into their packaging as well as into products.
We are announcing the formalization of a working group, a coalition of the willing companies that really want to come together and address the issue of the ocean plastic pollution.
This cross-industry consortium that's now being established it's very exciting to be a part of. We are proud to be participants in this and to support the efforts of all those that are committing and getting involved.
By collaborating with other like-minded companies, I think we can make a significant difference to this problem.
I have a lot of faith in the idea that if you put more and more elements of the system in the room and have a collective will to solve something together, that maybe you can actually solve for the system.
I really like the open source concept, and the reason why is because it creates opportunities for any company and every company to plug into the lessons learned companies have already had and to build upon them so that they can give back. So if a company gets an idea, they put it out there, the rest of the team joins in, works it, they come up with better ideas, it keeps stacking up these ideas and it keeps growing.
These companies are leading industries to show them this is the new way to make products. We can redesign things and reuse materials that are out there in the environment to limit our impact going forward and protect the place that we really love.
That's a future that starts to look sustainable, maybe even restorative, depending on how you look at it.
For us, tackling ocean plastics was something we were ever going to be able to do alone. One of my big concerns is we hear a lot of talk, but where's the walk? Another one of my big concerns is where's the authenticity behind it? And so what I'm very excited about with Next Wave is we've got the components to really come together and drive change and do it at scale. Now, in terms of Interface's own participation, you heard a bit earlier from Heather on our Networks project, where we work with fishing communities in the Philippines, Cameroon and Indonesia to transform discarded fishing nets into our supply chain, into these carpets, but in a way that empowers communities. I do love the Beaumont sheet. And I think one of the interesting things there is an unusual collaboration. We've learnt so much from working with a conservation organisation. Any business that would run into a community and say, we're going to solve plastics, is probably going to run into trouble. But actually, by working together, us learning to speak a little bit of conservation, Heather being very, very fluent in carpet, we can actually tackle these issues. To the next one. For us, it's about creating supply chains that benefit all life. This issue of ocean plastics isn't just an environmental one, as Heather was saying, it's also a social one. For us, this is a chance to empower. It's a chance to take back the environment, to take back our climate. So in terms of networks, and just to transport you guys to the Philippines, we realised that we wanted to turn waste into an empowerment device, that fishermen know their nets. They were going to become a really useful part of the supply chain. That if you could put a value on plastic waste as an incentive, it would give you the opportunity to engage. It would give an incentive to put waste into the supply chain. It would change the relationship on the ground with waste, but it would also change our business relationship too. And the fact that we could create community banks and empower through it was something that, as a business, it's what we should be doing. It's how you deliver on a triple bottom line. Waste is a huge opportunity, but we have to make sure that it's done responsibly. And this, for us, this is how we got involved in ocean plastics. But we could only tackle it so far, and we tackled it pretty fast. To give you a view of how you start with one supply chain, and you don't necessarily know how big an impact it could have. So yes, we collect the nets, and we've created community banks, but where can that lead beyond that? Well, for networks, it's actually led to the creation of marine protected areas, working with fishing communities, and also the growth of seaweed farming. So in theory, we could be looking at creating seaweed for bioplastics, as long as it's being responsibly used and we knew the externalities, the options are there. We had a nice example a few weeks ago that one of our communities actually saved together for a solar panel, for the guardhouse, for the MPA. So what they're doing is they're charging the lights for like the local volunteer force who are tracking illegal fishing. It's bringing these things together. It's not just about a supply chain for carpet. It's about livelihoods. It's about resilience. It's about conservation in the long term. And that's what the power of just taking something from nets and turning it into carpet could bring. And that's something for us that we wanted to share. But we, as I said, can only go so far. And that we wanted to get on the radar of bigger companies and influence them. Quite a big company is Dell in terms of the computer company. And what they've been doing is they've been using ocean plastics for the last 2 years in their packaging. This is actually the packaging for their XPS 13. And this tray is 100% recycled. 75% is from various recycled sources. But 25% is from ocean plastic. It's HDPE. And they've launched it for one range, but it's replicable. In the same way that we will take as many nets as we can and transform them into carpet, they will take as much waste HDPE and transform it into packaging. And it was really exciting for Dell to come into this sphere, because suddenly, when you're a company that's been feeling like you've been running alone, fighting ocean plastic, and you've got a like-minded giant of a company that's also running, you start thinking, actually, if we work together, can we amplify the effect that we have? And that's what Next Wave really is. This is from Dell's Chief Supply Chain Officer. Collaboration is critical to addressing the issue of ocean plastic at scale. No fancy words, just a fact. Equally, you do need that big size company to scale, but you need your provocateurs and your entrepreneurs to make this happen. This is Adrian Grenier. He runs an organisation, or he's the face of an organisation called Lonely Whale. And they're pretty small, actually. They have an executive of about 4 or 5, but they've been influencing Dell for a number of years on their ocean plastic work. And they kind of convinced them to create Next Wave. The call was made by Lonely Whale and Dell together to bring these companies into one place to collaborate and grow. And that just proves that you don't need to be a huge multinational to make a difference. You can make a difference, as Margaret Mead said, with just a little crowd of individuals. And our aim with Next Wave is to keep plastics in the economy and out of our oceans. So a few more examples that are on the background on my display at the back. This is a Boreo skateboard made out of waste fishing nets from Chile. This is again a good example of a small set of entrepreneurs driving change. So David, Ben, and Kevin here started with a skateboard, but they've diversified into sunglasses. They've diversified into frisbees made out of HDPE. They even had Jenga come and knock on their door to say, can we make ocean plastic Jenga? And their experiment is even growing even further with Next Wave, because what we're seeing is that chair that you'll see in the back contains 1 kilo of fish nets. Pretty much everything on that table, apart from the frisbee, is this. It's amazing what you can make with one form of waste. And it's amazing what difference you can make if you're a small entrepreneur, which I'm looking around this crowd and spotting a number of people that run small companies. Remember the power that you have to influence. It's really strong, and I'm looking forward to seeing you influence companies like us and Dell. And yes, the human scale chair launched at NeoCon last week, and it's, who would have thought? I mean, carpets, conservation, skateboards, chairs are both those, the latter two do have wheels. And in terms of lessons that we've learned with Next Wave, it's really to realise we have to come together as different businesses to drive this change. I think we're seeing it across the board, whether it's in the retail sector, whether it's in the fashion sector. There's no point of a company running on its own on this issue. It's something we need to be collaborative about. And also, I'm also seeing there's a need to be super authentic. And one of the benefits of Next Wave is we've amassed some very important critical friends, not idle TV standby though. Covering ZSL, that's the worst place it could have been. But whether it's UN Environment, Five Gyres, the New Materials Institute at the University of Georgia, which is Jenna Jambak, who is the person who the 8 million ton stat comes from, and Heather and the guys at ZSL. It's really important that bigger businesses value that need to have critical friends to test that authenticity. I think that would make me saddest is someone, if a company just rode a bit of a wave over the ocean plastics, just dipped its feet. What I really appreciate, and the talk that's going to follow mine with Richard is a great example. When a company is fully committed and it wants to drive change, it can do great things. But we as a community have to guard against anyone that's just going to dip their toe into the ocean plastic problem, because that's probably going to worsen things rather than make them better. So this is, to end on a positive note, Eric Soldheim. The oceans are facing a plastics pandemic, and it's critical for companies to take ownership of their supply chains. My summary of this was actually as follows. I kind of figured if you are a business and you're not looking at plastics as an issue, you're probably foolish, at least. I think beyond that, to your investors and to your employees, you're actually probably bordering on negligent. But for future generations, if you're not looking at this issue now, I think you will be marked as being criminal. And that's a business saying that. And I happily say that on behalf of Next Wave. But to end on a positive, there are plenty of businesses that are taking note, that are taking action. There are plenty of plucky entrepreneurs that are inspiring other businesses. And when we work together, we can do great things, and we have to do great things for our future generations. So I feel like an ocean optimist. I feel good about the future, but we just have to work hard to keep sure that everyone remains on track. Thank you very much.